Hi, it's Scott Wilkinson, editor of AVSforum.com and host of the Home Theater Geeks podcast. I'm talking with Mark Waldrep, founder and chief engineer of AIX Records and founder of iTracks.com, a download site for high-res audio. And Mark, you're a pretty big presence here at CE Week this week. You're giving a high-res audio demo several times. And what do you hope to achieve by doing that?
You know, it's all about, you can talk till you're blue in the face, you can put an ad, you can write an article online about high-res audio, about better fidelity, about immersive 5.1 surround mixes, but you cannot communicate what it really can feel like until like I did just shortly ago, in a good sounding room with great speakers, with a nice setup, and play stuff for people. Once they hear it, and I mean hear it meaning the real thing, my recordings especially, because of the way that I do them with the sort of no compromise, no games, gimmicks, none of the normal sort of production requirements, they don't inhibit me. I can produce a recording that has no compromise, and that's what you can do when you play in a good room. Let people sit back and hear it, whether it's a classical piece, a jazz piece, or something with vocals. They get it, and I mean hopefully, and the people that come up to me are certainly the ones that are engaged. Maybe other people drift out without having had that same experience. But at least I know now that they have tasted blowfish, or they've, in some way they've experimented in a realm that I've been working in for 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Your comment about no compromise makes a lot of sense to me, because of course we know that most commercial music is recorded and then mastered with the compression, so there's very little dynamic range. But if you do what you're suggesting with no compromise, you keep the full dynamic range, full frequency response, you need a certain level of quality in your system in order to appreciate it, do you not?
You do. And by saying no compromising, then I'm assuming that other people are compromising. That's not really the case. Everybody, as David Chesky said on the panel that we did this morning, every engineer, every producer, everybody working in this area, creating music, has a sort of vision about what their preferred sound is. And sometimes that might be a heavily distorted guitar through a pencil-thin cable and through crappy speakers. That's fine. It's not to say that those creative choices are there. But once you've made those creative choices, the choice as to how much of the sound that I walked out of the mixing studio with do I maintain when I deliver it to my customers, my listeners. It might be this beautiful distorted thing, but if I crush it even further in the mastering room, if I go through the data compression and push it down to a 128 or a 256 MP3 file, maybe at that point I'm damaging my creative vision. So those are the sort of industry standards of how we make records these days. And because I'm self-funding my own label and I'm distributing my own thing, as I've said many times, my goal in this at the outset was not to become a big fancy record company. I don't really want to do that, but I do want to establish to the other members of the producers and engineers wing and the major labels and those people that are interested in creating records that it is possible to actually adopt another set of production requirements or constraints or style that results in some of the recordings that I demoed this morning. And certainly the press and the customers that I've got have said, these are some of the best sounding things I've ever heard. How did you get that? And it's those techniques and adoption of these sort of purist audio procedures that cause that to be the case. That's why they sound like they do.
I was particularly impressed with your comment this morning about how you advocate as large a bucket as possible, or container as you called it, to capture the music. And then if you have to scale that back or something, you can for an MP3 or whatever, but you still retain all of the original data for that time when you want to distribute it in its full glory.
Absolutely. And the reason that I drilled into that a little bit is because, in fact, a CD consisting of 44.1 kilohertz PCM samples at 16 bits is actually enough for 99% of the commercial releases that are put out. 16 bits. When we start talking about DAC converters that got 24 bits, and heaven forbid we're up to 32 bits now and 384 PCM, all of that is a hill of beans. It's just nonsense, because nobody in the production community is making records like that. we're recording 99% of the records that come out of Hollywood are at 48K, 24 bits. When those instrumentalists are out there and they're playing, 24 bits isn't needed because I don't know how loud they're going to get. I have that much more room to sort of gauge my production. But when I deliver it, there's less than 16 bits worth of dynamic range after the mastering guy gets done. So why are we saying that's got to live in a 24-bit container in order for you to be high-res capable? It's just, again, it's a matter of misinformation or spin that takes things in a direction that just continues to confuse, and therefore, people avoid the world of better quality music.
And why would they want to do that when they can get a more fundamental, a more deeply emotional experience?
They sell more records.
Ever praying to the God of commerce, eh?
Louder is better, I'm sorry to say. So, yeah, I think at the end of the day, for those people that will sit through or download or, listen to a track on their own system or their own headphones of one of my tracks, they will know that at least they can experience recordings done this way. You don't have to limit a vocalist all the way through or an instrument or a kick drum. You can actually leave them like they actually were played.
Sounds good to me. Thanks so much.
Did it.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks you, Scott. Appreciate the opportunity.